how does my first Emmy nomination feel? It feels fantastic. So to love doing something so much that that is its own reward. And yeah, I tried to make it a matter of indifference how the world was going to receive it, because I felt so happy shooting it. And I felt like this is so precious. I must not, I'm never going to watch it. I'm never going to care what anybody thinks. I'm just going to take this experience and have it. Then to have all of this happen on top of it, it really is icing on a very delicious cake. I had read the first, I think, 3 episodes, and maybe that was all they had really completed writing. But I understood, the idea of the lady and the trope of the lady, and I loved the writing. And of course, I had seen Colin's performance in Batman, so I knew what we were building around, and I loved that performance so much. So I felt like I got the idea of what we were going for, but the fact that the backstory was so rich and that it was going to actually be in the show. So I remember sitting with Lauren after I had already taken the job, and we were already way in the conversations about like the clothes and the finally got to sit down with her, and she just took an hour and a half and told me the tale. And I almost thought she was kidding. It wasn't that so much that I thought she was kidding, but I said, all of that is going to be in the show? Oh yes, this is all going to be in the show. I was pretty shocked and overwhelmed with happiness. But I did sign on without understanding that, just thinking like, I'll show up every once in a while and give them a hard time, and it's still going to be an awesome job. But the fact that it just kept going deeper and deeper into why their relationship was the way it was, that was something I didn't see coming. And it was a great surprise. I am in the unfortunate position that so many people are, that I knew that world. My dad probably had Lewy body dementia, although I think he was diagnosed as having Alzheimer's. But in retrospect, there's a lot of misdiagnosis with those two diseases. And so in retrospect, I think my dad had it. And unfortunately, my mom has another form of dementia. So the whole thing of like that, managing that diminishment, managing that gradual loss of understanding of what's going on around you, and managing all of the feelings about that, seeing my father, who a man of so much grace and class, like get into these tiny rages about the lack of dignity of how he was not able to change his own clothes and not. So, unfortunately, I was able to sort of feel those feelings from the inside. But then I was also really lucky that I found a woman who was a PT person for people with Lewy's and Parkinson's, and people let me into their homes and watch them do their sessions and really get to do the homework on the exact gait and the exact. So I got to do that technical homework. And also there are people so willing to make YouTube videos now to help other people who they find in the same situation, saying like, this is what me and my husband are going through, and this is some stuff that we're finding that's helping us. So there's a whole world that opened up to me just watching people like help others who were going through it, and I just got to watch them be in their homes. And because it was in my family and because I had such strong personal feelings about it, I did feel like I better not mess this up. I don't want to, cheapen it by taking it and making it. Yeah, there was a very thin, delicate line I felt responsible to walk, which was don't shortchange it at all. Be completely in it, but also don't, flay it. So it was how to live inside that. So I just had to think about that a lot. But unfortunately, I had lived with it a lot. So, I feel like Colin and I, the first time we really spent time together was a camera test where he was in his full regalia and I was in my full regalia, which was, it didn't take me 5 hours to get into it. And there was somehow just a connection that we made that was kind of just game on. Okay. Oh, that's who you are. I think that I had met him for, a 10-minute meeting before that. I was intimidated. I mean, I think if he hadn't been in a amazing prosthetic as Oz, I would have had a longer time to adjust to the idea that this is okay. That's Colin Farrell. You're filled with admiration for him. You have been his fan for a long time. He really disappeared. So I really did not have to deal with my Colin Farrell fangirl. He disappeared. He was a different guy. So I thank God for that, because it made it very instant and very quick that we were in that world of those two characters. But I do feel like we were blessed somehow. We both got struck by lightning a little bit. We were just like, we're going to do this. But in retrospect, I also know how generous he was. It felt very natural, but I think he was he surrendered to me so much. He didn't need to do that. He made a decision to do that. Maybe he wouldn't have with somebody else, but I think that's kind of how he rolls. He really surrenders and lets the other person lead him in a funny way. And he's so powerful, and he has so much energy and so much fire. But there's also a way that he's always surrendering. He's always falling forward into the scene that you're creating with him. It's not always like that. And I also felt like I was never alone. We were always very connected. There was never a time when I felt like, I'm kind of having to act on my own with this one. I never quite knew what was going to happen, because I felt like we were finding it together all the time. But we were very compatible. We had a similar taste about how it should work, but we also just felt like whatever happens now will be okay each day. And that, I don't know, we were just lucky. We were really lucky. Sometimes you can go back and sort of create that. You can have a lot of meetings and a lot of talks and get somewhere, but we didn't actually talk that much. We just would dive in each time. Carrying that double-edged secret of the fact that he had killed those boys, his brothers, and that I always knew that. I always had to be carrying that. I always had to be putting that back in every scene all the way through the show. But when we got to that scene where it all got revealed and explodes, I remember realizing that the thing that made it explode was when he said, that's your disease talking. I remember feeling like, don't you dare. And I think that had to do partly with knowing my dad and going through it with my dad, that there's a moment when you will not be belittled that way, in spite of the fact that you have this disease. You're not going to, you still know what's going on enough. And so when he said, that's your disease talking, I think that's when she just went nope, all bets are off. Now I'm going to tell the truth about this. The carrying all those secrets, it was a remarkable gift to get to do that, to carry all those rocks in the basket all the time. Answered so many questions about how each scene worked. Because the trope of, the guy who's looking for the love of his mom and she's withholding it from him for all kinds of reasons. We know that trope. But to have it be no, we're going to tell you all the reasons. And in fact, given what's happened, she loves him very well. She actually takes very good care of him. It may look from the outside like she's really tough on him, but a lot of other people wouldn't even let him live. Shooting that last scene was the last thing that I think it was the last day of the whole thing. And, I thought it would be a fairly simple thing because I was basically going to be playing someone who was in a coma, lying in a bed. So I certainly didn't expect it to be so emotional. I thought, okay, I have this job of lying in this bed. But there was a thing that Colin did at the very end, which was I felt Oz just stop asking for his mom's love. I felt Oz just pull away. And I hadn't even, Dee Dee hadn't really realized how much love Colin and Oz were pouring my way for a year until he just clicked and took it away. And it made my blood run cold in that moment. So what I thought was going to be a very simple technical day where I just have to lie in a bed was an extremely emotional, intense day. Just because of that one little switch. He turned the switch, and I didn't even know that the switch had been on. You know, I didn't know how much he had surrendered to me until he stopped. It was really something. It was really something, because it was just like the tiniest thing. But I think we all felt it in the room. It was like, it's a little breathtaking. As a theater actor, you're constantly being told, pull it back a little bit. In this particular case, because this story was so operatic and huge, and the characters had so much fire and such sharp teeth, there was a way that the courage to just bring it full on and to use your entire pitching arm with a camera rolling took a lot of courage. Many days I was like, I don't think we're getting away with this. We can't possibly be getting away with this, because it did feel so like all the acting muscles I had were being like, and I did feel scared that it's like, am I supposed to feel like really, really quiet when I'm doing TV acting? I don't feel that way. So it felt like not very different. It felt very like it's using all your chops.